Hello and welcome to 2018, everyone. Welcome back to Saltwater Gaming. I am Ellison Smith. So, 2017 was when we began this podcast and when a lot of us began our podcasts on the Eventide Entertainment network. So, we're looking at revamping, and I'm especially looking at revamping the show a lot. I've been kind of starting with a little bit more of a scripted format for future episodes. I've been considering YouTube, turning this into more of a video series as well, see if we can branch out there. Um, Not that I don't love podcasting, it's just that I think we can do a little bit more with video media as well. So those will all be discussed in the next, in the next couple weeks and months possibly, as it's a little experiment at this point. But what I do want to get into is a couple more sessions where I talk about some of the games that we had long time ago, back in the day. So probably, either the first big console gen of the Xbox and PlayStation and Super Nintendo and all these other kind of stuff, and the PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2, every now and again the PlayStation 3. And today I just want to talk about one of my all-time favorite gems that was really well acclaimed and really scored well back in the wonderful year of 2005. And that game is Mercenaries Playgrounds of Destruction. Now, this game came out way back in 05, took place back in 07, so you know that they were only estimating about 2 years in advance. And it seems like so long ago because so much has happened in that time. But the game was published by Pandemic Studios and LucasArts, or developed by Pandemic and published by LucasArts. Both one of which is no longer with us, and the other one is just kind of not really functioning at the top of its game anymore. So this was at its prime, honestly. Uh, it's an action adventure game. You have an open world environment that you can. There's stealth elements if you want to use stealth elements, but a lot of it is reputation based. So you score points with different factions, and you can get different bonuses and benefits from siding and with all these factions. And it's very much a third person kind of thing, and just it's probably one of the best sandboxes that I've ever played in, and that's coming from all the times that we've had GTA 5 and Saints Row. This is probably one of the best sandboxes that I have ever played, and I highly recommend if you have not. If you still have your old consoles, so if you still have like the skinny PS2 or a PS2 that still works and a memory card that hasn't committed suicide at this point, go online, go on Amazon and pick this up. It's probably going to be like $3 or something like that, but it's Mercenaries, Playground of Destruction. It's amazing. So your story is that you get deposited um, in South Korea. There is a conflict with the North Korean government. So this game is a little bit more relevant nowadays, but back in the day, still a thing. And you get to choose one of three mercenaries, and you pick that character, and you go and you're deposited in the demilitarized zone, or DMZ. There we go. That's the word that I was looking for. That I totally remembered. And you have to work with the South Koreans to uh, and I'm pretty sure like the UN or NATO or something like that, to capture 52 individuals who have um, fallen under the rule of this North Korean general. This North Korean general has launched a coup and is trying to attack the South Koreans, the Chinese, the Russian mob, and just everyone at this point. North Korea is going nuts against everyone. Let's see, it's the Allied nations, the AN. All right, there we go. South Koreans, Russian mafia, China, and then you have the North Koreans. So there you are. That's all the people you get to deal with. So you have to go in and you get paid for all these different missions to go and get after the deck of 52 members and work your way up the deck. And you can collect these guys and you get a higher paycheck for keeping them alive. You still get paid if they're dead, but it doesn't help you as much. So there is incentive. And then you have all these other little missions, like you have to steal supply trucks, um, blow up reactors, steal cargo, and you have all of these vehicles and weapons at your disposal. If you become friends with the Russian mob, then they have a contraband network, a website that you can order things off of, and this chopper will come in and arrive it. And you have, I remember the cheat codes for this game back when cheat codes were still a legitimate thing. Um, and you essentially had a nuclear missile launcher and an automatic machine gun shotgun, and those were the only two things that you really needed uh, for in the entire game, and you were untouchable, and it was just so good. The best memory I have of this game is just the sheer amount of rampage that you could do. You could order and you could steal all of these enemy vehicles and just stack them on like a bunker that the enemies are spawning out of. So you have all of these tanks or all of these jeeps on top of this, on top of around inside, just all these places. And you order a missile. And you get the missile strike to confirm, and the missile's coming down, and you just see this giant explosion, and this huge shockwave comes out. And now this is like 2005 graphical technology, so at this point, like it's advanced, and it was advanced to that point. So it's just all this smoke and debris and all this other kind of stuff, and just huge fireball. And it for the inner like pyromaniac, it's a warm and fuzzy feeling just to be able to raise things to the ground with a little bit of money and a bunker buster bomb. uh, yeah, I will admit I have not played this game in uh, God since essentially since the PS3 came out. There was a sequel, Mercenaries 2, and it was not as good. It was called Mercenaries 2 World in Flames, and that took place in Brazil. And I won't go into that just because it's god awful. Um, but Mercenaries Playground of Destruction is a game that I can remember as being probably one of the first games that caused me not to sleep, not from fear or not from anything like that, but because I was too busy playing it. Like, I remember the first weekend, or the first big gaming weekend that I had. I had friends over and we started playing it, and we never really stopped. And the next thing you know, my mom is knocking on the door and she goes, "Oh, well, did you not sleep? It's like 9 o'clock in the morning." And we had been going through this game for an entire, like, 24 hours. And we were almost, a good portion of the way through the game, but we had gotten so caught up with making explosions or just doing the dumbest things because that's what this game allowed you to do. And you could get money for collecting like intelligence dossiers or just blowing things up. If you blew up enemy vehicles, you got cash, and that was all you really needed to do. So that's what we did, and it's one of those games that when you're a kid, and it's not an M-rated game. It's not like heavily violent. It's a third-person shooter, but it was I think it was a T rating. It's 16 plus in Britain, so it's probably a T rating. It's one of those things that you find and you play it forever. and then the next console comes out, and you don't forget about it, but you move on to the next console, and then all of these other things come out, and you get all these wonderful dynamic storylines, like you have your first ever playthrough of the Bioshock series, or The Last of Us, and all of these advancements in storytelling and dynamic gameplay come out, and you don't think about your founders as much, but you know that they're there. And so you're sitting through, and you'll be going through, and like probably Facebook, and you'll more than likely, if you follow this podcast or you follow a couple of the other podcasts, you have a gaming page somewhere on your Facebook, and they'll pop up with, "Do you remember such and such a title?" And eventually, Mercenaries will pop up, and you're just like, "Oh, yes, I love this. Where's my PlayStation?" And you'll go, and you'll find this gem that hopefully you've kept since you put it in there, and you'll remember why you enjoyed it, and maybe you'll play it for a little while. You won't. Maybe you'll play it for a long time. Maybe you'll beat the game again. Maybe you won't. It's okay. Just so long as you remember what this game brought to you, and remember, all of the wonderful chaos that you caused in this game. Um, then the overall purchase and the reason that you kept it for so long makes it worth it. So the whole concept of this portion of the podcast, the do you remember, or the gym episodes is what I want to call them, or something along those lines. Fossil episodes. There we go. Since this is saltwater game. Is just to find these things that I know people probably played as a kid, and if you didn't play Mercenaries, then that's okay, but I know a lot of people who purchased from Pandemic, like the original Star Wars Battlefront games. Pandemic did those. They probably knew of this because some of the similar shooting mechanics were used. And I'm not going to be focusing on just Pandemic. Just saying, this is just the first one that I want to talk about. A lot of people have these games that they remember, and not just like Kingdom Hearts or anything like that, but these little lost titles that once their studios closed up, or they folded, or they were purchased by someone and incorporated into that company, then they just kind of forgot who they were. It's essentially a rediscovery, or a recall of the mastery and the skills that some of these developers had back in the day, back when we had all of these different huge studios that were constantly working together and pushing out great products, and not charging us for microtransactions, or not making a game based solely on choices and button mashing. Thanks, Telltale series. Uh, that'll be in the next video, by the way. It's a remembrance that we had wonderful foundations for gaming, and that while we have come a long way, there's still some things that are a little bit problematic, and it might be time to start looking for the gems of this age and press our big providers to up the game, as it is, or up the ante. But yeah, long story short, sorry for that, a little bit sentimental. Long story short, if you have the ability, and if you are into not retro gaming, but like 2 gen ago gaming still, pick up Mercenaries Playground of Destruction. Uh, give it a good moment of your time. If you just need something to de-stress about, or need a game that's very relevant in today's political climate, or just something that you can sit down in and just watch things blow up, this is the perfect game for you. It's got a really good story. There's plenty to do. There's plenty to do when you're not on a mission. It's just it's one of those things that I know that I enjoyed, and I know that there are still copies out there, and I highly recommend that y'all try it if you are still wanting to, mess around with a PlayStation 2 controller. Give Mercenaries Playground of Destruction the chance that it deserves, and if we can get enough attention back to it, then hopefully we can get like a revamp. But not through EA. That would not be cool. All right. So next week we're going to talk about the Telltale series because I have had some experiences with it recently, and I really want to discuss those. So in the meantime, and closing out, Mike's got some stuff to talk to you about what's coming up with Eventide. And I'm sorry for yammering on this entire episode and leaving him till the end. But Mike, go ahead and tell him what's coming up. And this has been Saltwater Gaming. We'll see y'all next week, and I hope y'all have had a wonderful start to the new year.
There's a reason they call them lazy Sundays. There's nothing better than sitting around and enjoying the comforts of a good book. But what book should that be? Well, every Sunday, Eventide brings you The Bookseller, hosted by Jessica Gillen. Each week, Jessica breaks down a different book and tells you everything you need to know before cracking it open and getting lost in a whole new world. Tune in every Sunday for The Bookseller with Jessica Gillen, brought to you by Eventide Entertainment. Nothing brings people together quite like the movies, and every week, Aaron Lopez wants you to join him in a discussion about the latest and greatest in the world of film. So grab a drink, grab some popcorn, and get comfy. Come join Aaron and friends every Thursday at The Drive-In, presented by Eventide Entertainment.